Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I haven't been out of the house for a really, really long time. And I'm excited to be here with you and really excited for the topic that we have today. So, and you can put up that first slide if you want. So what I'd like to do to start, though, is I'd like to, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I would like to just hear, if you'll just give me your name and what your major is and kind of why you picked that major. And if you haven't picked a major yet, let me know. I would love to hear from you, so we'll start with you.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Jasmine. I am a business major, and as of over the weekend, I think I'm going to be a project manager. So I do have a question about that later on for you.
Perfect, perfect. And you?
I'm Charles, and I'm still undecided.
Okay. And you?
I'm Steve, doing accounting.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm Matt, accounting also.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, well, a long time ago, there are a couple of things I want to start with. I'm just going to give you a history of kind of my background and my career, my professional experience, and how I came to this particular spot. And it's a little bit of a long history. If you feel like you want to ask a question in interim before it's time for questions, I'm happy to answer it. I know a lot of times you forget, and I'm happy to have it interactive if you're okay with that. So just feel free to shout out a question or raise your hand if you have a question about anything I'm saying. I remember in junior high taking what they call aptitude tests. And I remember I got the results back, and the results of my aptitude test said I would be best for clerical work. And I have to tell you that at that particular juncture, I was honestly disappointed because I'm like, I don't like clerical work. And I was kind of, like in my family, it was always, once you finish school, you go on to college. And so for me, I was a little bit disappointed thinking I must not be that talented, if that makes sense. And so that was kind of a deterrent. And the reason I bring that up is it comes up often in my life. It comes up often where I think about that and have to change the story I'm telling myself about what I am qualified to do. And so I'm hoping that as I tell you my story, that will help you to feel that same way. So I went to the University of Utah and was there for a couple of years, and then I got married. And at that particular time at the University of Utah, my major was political science. And the reason that I picked political science is that I wanted to go to law school, and I thought that I wasn't good at writing, and I did much better on multiple choice tests instead of essay tests. And so I thought, I don't want to take English as a major, and a lot of lawyers take that. So I'm going to take political science. And I thought it would be really fun to work on a capital campaign or a political campaign at some point. I got married in my second year of college, and my husband joined the military, so we were instantly taken out of state, and it really put a hold on my college career. And I remember thinking it's going to be hard for me to get through college, and felt like I was giving up my dreams a little bit for my husband's dreams. And one of the things that was hard about traveling is that we had to establish residency every time for me to get in-state tuition. Otherwise, this tuition was way cost prohibitive for me. And so we'd live somewhere 2 years, and then I'd take a class, and then we would move. In the interim, I had 2 kids. Didn't really think I wanted to have kids, but life's path takes you there, and my kids are the joy of my life. But kind of college was, I had the opportunity to go to a lot of different colleges, MiraCosta, Mary Washington, I can't even name them all. But it was kind of like my hobby, my outlet, that I would take classes at different universities where we lived. And so I found myself and I was fine. I was fine being a mom, and I loved being a mom. It's a very, I have a warm spot in my heart for that time in my life. I found myself in a situation where my husband left me, and I had a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I hadn't finished my degree in college, and I didn't really have any skills per se, and I hadn't worked for 12 years. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me. I moved back to Utah for a couple of reasons. One is this is where my family lived. You know, my both in-laws were here, so my kids could see their grandparents. 2, it was a more cost-effective place to live. And 3, most of my credits didn't transfer from other universities because it had been a while. And so the University of Utah was where I had the most credits, and so I wanted to finish up there. And my husband knew it. I think he felt a little guilty when we got divorced, so he said he'd help me through it. And then he remarried very, very shortly, and that was short-lived. And so I found myself in the world of work and having to give up school. And I had 3 jobs at one time, and I was making minimum wage at all of them. And one of them was I worked at the Joseph Smith Memorial Building as a hostess for weddings, because I loved weddings, and wedding planning I thought would be really fun. And one of them was at Nordstrom's in the dress department, and that to me was going to be my ideal job. I love clothes. And the other one was at Franklin Covey. I got a job there answering phones. And it's funny because the job I really liked the most was Franklin Covey. And, you know, I didn't think but for me, sales was just really uncomfortable. I didn't want to be pushy. And I felt like I was just a glorified waitress at the wedding consultant place. So I settled in at Franklin Covey and just started going to work. I thought about going to school back to college, but what I realized is that you know, I couldn't be gone all day and all night from my kids. But the biggest factor that deterred me was the fact that I would have to pay. I couldn't get any breaks on my tuition. And I think that experience has really solidified what I do today. And let me tell you why. The advice that I got was quit your job, go on welfare, and finish your degree, go on food stamps, and you'll be fine. And I wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with that as an example for my kids. I wasn't okay with that because I didn't want to stop working at Franklin Covey. And I wasn't okay because I felt like that was going to be hard for my career path moving forward to just stop and go to school. And I feel like a lot of times we have to buck the system. We have to come up with our own options. And I'm here to say that we can make our own way and our own options. And so I just decided to hold off on school for a little while. And I moved up the chain at Franklin Covey. I started managing all the operators and receptionists, and then I moved into planner production, the Franklin Covey planners. I moved into that, producing those planners and leading that team. And then I remember Franklin, it was Franklin Planner at that time. And then they merged with Covey for you who are local, but for you who don't, it was just like, it was a company merge. And the corporate environment really changed and there were no productions. And as a single mom, I knew I needed to keep increasing my wage. And so I left for a job at Dallin Smith & White. And I remember thinking it was a really high-scale advertising agency, and I remember thinking, this is the ideal job. I remember they had bagels on Friday, and they had games that, for the staff, and it was just a really easy environment. And it's funny because I thought, I've arrived. And what I found is I wasn't good at interactive job managing, that I wasn't good on the computer, and that it just probably wasn't my ideal job. But I wanted to keep working at it and get better. And then funny thing happened. I hadn't dated for years. I have a son with a disability that was pretty severe, and so I just focused on being a mom. and thought it would be hard to bring somebody into that relationship and remarry. But I found someone, and when I hadn't dated for like 4 or 5 years, and we got married. And just at that time, my son was going into junior high, and he started flailing. So I quit my job at Dell & Smith & White and was just looking for any job. And my husband, mind you, was a truck driver who didn't make a ton of money. And so I remember it was like 2 weeks after we got married saying, I'm going to quit my job, and he laughed at me. But I said, I would do this with or without you, and my son's really important, and so I just want to get another job where I can be here when he goes to work or school and here when he gets back. So I was looking in the paper, and I probably spent 3 months looking for a job and just, in the newspaper everywhere. And I felt really bad, like, why will nobody hire me? And now I look back and I think for the jobs I was looking for, I was probably a little overqualified, and people probably thought, and as I hire, people probably thought, why is she looking for this job and how long will she really stay? Well, here's the thing I would say to you as you are looking for jobs. Let people know. Let people know what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. And let people know your intentions. Because I've had people who I haven't hired because I've thought they were overqualified, and then I haven't given them the opportunity to tell me why they want to do what they're doing. Well, for me, it was a job in the paper, and I applied for it, and I remember interviewing, and I was going to be a executive assistant. And I realized really quickly again, I wasn't qualified to be an executive assistant. I didn't know Excel. I didn't know, I didn't have the computer programs down. But they liked me, and so they found a job for me as a program manager. I remember when I went to Junior Achievement to the interview, I thought it was the Junior League, which is a women's organization. I knew it was a nonprofit, but I thought it was a woman helping women and children organization. And I saw the president of Junior Achievement, and it was a man, and I thought, wow, how progressive. They've got a man leading this women's organization. And then I found out what Junior Achievement did. How many of you have heard of Junior Achievement before? Okay, a couple of people. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement is a nonprofit organization, and our job is to reach kids K through 12th grade. We're actually part of a worldwide organization that's been around for over 100 years. We reach 10 million students. We're the best kept secret, I think, in the world, because people don't know about us. But the beauty of Junior Achievement is we have volunteers going into the classroom. We have experiential learning site or capstone facilities where kids learn. And we believe that kids learn by doing. And so you can change that slide. These are all slides from one of our decks, just so you know. So our opportunity is, I feel like, something that Junior Achievement is really good at. To be honest with you, when I first, the beauty of Junior Achievement is really adults caring about kids. It's adults going into classrooms, it's adults going into our capstone facility where it's in, it's at the Discovery Gateway Children's Museum if you ever want to go there and see it. And kids actually, 5th graders actually get to run a city. So they actually get jobs, and they have to take out a business loan and pay it back. And it's the ultimate of kids learning by doing. It's very, very popular. We reach 1/3 of all 5th graders. We have a waiting list of schools, so we're in the midst of a capital campaign to build another facility in Utah County. But I remember when I first started at Junior Achievement thinking, this is really nice, but just helping kids, learn by doing, I just don't know. I mean, if I worked at like the food bank or if I worked at the homeless shelter, I would feel so much better. And then a really interesting thing happened to me. I had the opportunity to go to Leadership Utah, which is the Salt Lake Chamber, something the Salt Lake Chamber does. And they take young business leaders and I had the opportunity, being in a nonprofit, to go because of that relationship. And they show them everything about Utah. So every month we would take a day and we would take field trips to different places. So we learned about industry, we learned about medicine, we learned about, we went up to the Capitol, we learned about government, we learned everything there was to know about our community. But the most impressive day, there were 2 days that were really impressive to me, and one was the day we went to visit the prison. That was really eye-opening to me, because I always thought people who were in prison were scary people. And what I learned really quickly is people who are in prison are just like me. There are a lot of women in prison, and they are people who have, a lot of them are, because of addictions, and so their recidivism rate is very, very high. A lot of them are there for reasons that if it weren't for just, if I had taken another step in a different direction, that would be me. And that was really impactful for me. And so I remember having, like I said, kids that were teenagers and going home and saying, please be careful about your choices. But sometimes we learn more from our bad choices than good choices. But what I realized is once you were in that system, it was really hard to get out. And the other day that was really impactful for me was the day we went to visit other nonprofits. And we did go to the homeless shelter, and we did go to the YWCA, and we went to all of these places that for years I had thought, this is what true philanthropy is. And while I think they do amazing work and have the utmost respect for all of them, here's what I learned. I remember distinctly being in the homeless shelter, and I remember them showing us a film. And the film was about a young family. It was a woman and a man who had 2 little kids, and they were in transitional housing. And I think they had a meth addiction, and so they'd lost their kids for a while, and they ended up in the homeless shelter. And then they'd moved up to this transitional housing, and they'd gotten their kids back. And so I just remember the girl in the video was so gorgeous, and she had bright red hair, and she was just very distinct looking. And I remember I was so happy for this little family. And as we were taking a tour through the rest of the facility, I heard a noise like a door click, and I just happened to look back, and coming out of one of the rooms, I saw this girl. And what hit me immediately is she's lost her kids, she's back in the homeless shelter. Oh my gosh. And do I think that we should help her as many times as we possibly can and give her every chance possible to get her kids back and get her life on track? Yes, I do. But it changed my opinion drastically of the work that I do. Because what I realized is junior achievement is a proactive approach to breaking the cycle of poverty. If we start young with kids and we give them a different way, we can change their lives forever, their families' lives forever, and the people they touch, their lives forever. And I wanted to be with an organization that started early, before that cycle happened to them. And it's interesting, I'll tell you one of the statistics about junior achievement that really warms my heart. I feel like junior achievement is a long-term approach to breaking the cycle of poverty. We hope that we have volunteers that will care about our kids year after year. Back in the day, it was a lot easier for people to go to work with their parents, to have a mentor, to have someone who kind of shepherded them, and they learned the business from them. Now we're a society that is just so busy, and we don't spend a lot of time one-on-one with each other. Especially with COVID, it's gotten worse, that our kids don't have examples of people in the world of work. So junior achievement was providing that to kids, and it was providing them with hope, and kids can't be what they can't see. So if they don't know about the opportunities available to them, they're going to think in their world. And if their world is just people working at the convenience store, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that might not be their job choice. That's all they're going to know. And so what I realized is our volunteers open up the world for our kids, especially our at-risk kids, and show them another way to be. And so in a recent alumni study, we have trouble because we can't track students because of privacy laws. So it's hard for us to measure our results. Where other, if you give someone an immunization or if you feed them or you give them shelter, it's really easy to see, measure those effects. But are they long-term and sustainable? And so Junior Achievement started doing alumni studies. We started reaching out to our alumni to see how they were doing. And in the most recent alumni study, it showed that 51% of our JA alumni went into the same job as one of their JA volunteers. So for me, it's like having a mentor, having those mentors, those volunteers, and we have about 7,000 volunteers that go through to classrooms throughout Utah. Right now they're doing virtual sessions with our kids. Those mentors have no idea the way they're changing lives. And I remember going to a seminar once and hearing, just recently, and hearing true philanthropy is not giving something to somebody, because I've had charity before. I've had somebody give me food when I was a single mom and I couldn't feed my kids. And you feel good and grateful, but you also feel bad that you can't do it for yourself. So true philanthropy is helping someone help themselves, so they have this feeling of being great one day. And so I tell you that because I love what I do. I work a lot of extra hours, but I'm okay with it. And the reason that I'm okay with it is because I'm not making money for myself or a big company. I'm making money, or I'm making a difference in the lives of kids. And so I love the nonprofit world, but think back, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to work on a political campaign. And I'm glad that I took that path, because that path taught me that that wasn't really what was in my heart. And so it's funny because when I came back to college, so backing up a little bit, once I started part-time at Junior Achievement, I had the opportunity to go back to school and finish my degree. And I was going to finish my degree in political science, and I still thought maybe someday I'll be an attorney because I'll make good money there and I won't have to worry about money ever again. And I had a counselor in the college come to me, and I was trying to figure out when I could graduate. And I had a counselor say to me, "Did you know you could graduate more quickly in family and consumer studies than in political science?" And I'm like, how could that be? And what I realized is I was taking classes that interested me. I was taking family classes and learning about how to raise my kids and psychology and all of these things that mattered to me. And I was taking them as electives and then taking the classes where I thought I should be. And then, so I said to her, sure, fine. And then I remember thinking, but what am I going to do with a family and consumer science major? Because at some point, and so really my plan long term was to go back and get a degree. When I found out that nonprofit was my passion, and I found out that helping people was really my passion, I thought, I'm going to go back and get a master's in social work so I can be a marriage and family counselor. That was probably about 10 years ago. I think it would be fun to go back to school when I retire, but what I realized is I was already there. I was already in the field that I wanted to be. And if you want to go to the next slide, now I'm to the part where I'm going to give you advice on as you begin your career. The best advice that I've ever been given is do what you love, and you will always be successful. And I think that that is so true. So for me, I was trying to create something that I thought would make me successful. If I got my master's and I did social work, if I got a law degree and did law. But what I realized is that I loved what I did. I loved the classes I was taking. And if I focused on what I really, really loved, I would be successful. And I've watched so many people who do that. And one of the reasons is, if you do what you love what you're good at. So I don't love computer science. I can get by, and I've had to learn things in my job to do computer science, but I don't love it. I never will. It's not my passion. I'm not good at it. I love helping people. And because I love it, I'm good at it. I remember Nordstrom, when I worked at Nordstrom's, thinking, I'm not competitive enough. I watched the other girls, and they'd be like, that's my sale, don't ring it up. And I'd be like, are you kidding me? And I remember thinking, I can't sell. I'm horrible at selling. Well, 90% of my day is fundraising, but I'm not doing it for me, and I love it. I love helping kids. And so I would say, do what you love, and you will always be successful. And I can tell you that even though I work for a nonprofit, I'm making more money than I ever thought I would make because I'm doing what I love. And there are ways, so don't let anyone tell you that you can't make money in different professions. You do what you love, you're going to be good at it, you're going to go to the top, and you're going to make money. I've had every job in junior achievement. I worked in program, I worked in education, I've had every job. I feel like I'm really good at what I do, and because I love what I do. The second piece of advice is, and we have what we call job shadows. So we have different businesses, and we actually have things that we do, just so you know, with Salt Lake Community College. They have a storefront in our capstone facility, so kids can learn about the importance of education. And we also have these kids that come on campus, and learn. And so there's lots of ways that we can interact with kids and show them a different way. And one of the things we do is with high school kids, we have what's called a job shadow, where they can go into different industries and see the opportunities available for them, and who will pay for college, and who will match your 401k. That's amazing. And so these kids who otherwise would never see this get to see all of these opportunities that are available to them. And one time we had a panel of people. We were at a Fidelity job shadow, and we had a panel of their leadership. And someone said, if you were to give me a piece of advice, what would it be? And one of the gentlemen, that one of the leaders said, if you say that it's not your job, or it's not in your job description to do something, it never will be. So be really careful about what you won't do. And I always took that to heart. It's like, if I had an opportunity to do more and extra at a job, I did it. And what I will say is I tried to focus on more effort on things I loved. So if there was something I was really good at, like doing events or party planning or whatever it is, I would focus on that and be indispensable to my work team in that area. And when I did that, they would put me in charge of it. And so another thing I would say is you can create your own job. You really can, no matter where you are, by being good at what you do and being willing to do things that aren't your job responsibility. And so I have been able to, I'm not that bright in a lot of ways. I'm not that talented in a lot of ways. I feel so lucky to be doing the dream job and love what I do. But one thing I've learned is I've created the job I like. And I think that every job I've had, and I've had a lot that I haven't mentioned here, has helped me to, one, know what job is the right job for me and what job is the wrong job for me. So I don't feel like any of those jobs have been an accident. And two, has prepared me for the job I have today and knowing I'm in the right field. And so I would say try different options. Try different options with classes, try different options of jobs, and you will find your niche. I'm always surprised when I meet somebody who says they've been working in a job for 20 years and they hate it. Why? Why? There's so much out there to do. There's such a big world that it's like, do what you love, and the money will come. So create the job you want. And it's easy to do if you're willing to take on extra responsibility. Because as you can see, you guys don't know this, but I'm not good at technology, so I had somebody from my team come and help me to, set up, because I thought I'm not going to be good at it. So I've created what I'm good at is what my job is. And there have been things that I've had to do, one of them that I can think of is write grant proposals, and I've had to learn how to write, but just practice has made me better at it. But what I'm not good at, I leave to somebody else, and I do what I love. And the last thing I would say, where are we on time?
We have about 15 minutes.
Okay, the last thing I would say is pay it forward. So we have this, your handshake could change their lives. Be a mentor to someone. Pay it forward. Do something for others. Once you have a leg up, give a leg up to somebody else. It will always come back to benefit you in the end. And you will be happier. So whenever you have success, make sure to help someone who's struggling, whether it's a friend in a class or whoever it is. Make sure you're giving back, because people will notice, and you will get farther in your careers. And like I said, I think for me, it's been a long journey, but I feel so lucky. And it's not like I don't have bad days. I mean, when COVID hit, and I'm a nonprofit that takes volunteers into classrooms, and you know what classrooms look like right now, is a challenge. But it's a challenge that I love handling because I believe in what I'm doing. So I would just say, wherever you can, give back, and that will come back to you tenfold. So I'm thrilled to be here today. I applaud you all on your journey. One more thing I wanted to hit on, though, and I know we have just because, but I think there's all kinds of diversity issues and hiring, and how it affects how you hire someone. And so the last thing I'd like to say before I leave is my diversity issue was I was a woman. And for a while I was a woman without a degree. And so I felt like I had to work harder and faster and smarter to be able to keep the jobs and keep moving up. But I want you to know that I remember seeing our president and thinking, I think I would be good at that. And I remember for years talking to him about that and saying to him, I'd love to take your place someday, so let me know what I need to do. For the first few years, because our organization and our board leadership is white male dominated, he laughed at me. I mean, seriously, he's just like, oh, I don't know, you don't golf, you can't golf. And that was part of we had a golf tournament every year. And I just remember thinking, can he, I guess I can't golf. And I tried to have my husband help me learn how to golf, and that's not going to happen. And then I started saying, well, why can't I? Why can't I have this position that I really want? And so what I would say to you is, there's no reason you can't have the position where you really want. And so I just kept talking about it to him, and I kept saying, and when he would ask me to do things, I kept saying, okay, but I'm going to stick here, but would you really consider me for your job someday? And pretty soon he started saying, yeah, I would. And you just have to, so what I would say is go after what you want. Nobody's going to hand it to you. They just aren't. There's always going to be a deterrence in the way. But you really can, if you believe it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And that's something that I think I learned the hard way. But I think nobody's going to advocate for me if I don't advocate for myself. So having said that, I'm just thrilled that you spent time with me today, and I'm wondering if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask. Yes?
When the professor introduced you, she mentioned that you did project managing at one of your jobs. Can you remind me which one it was?
It was at Dallin Smith & White, which was an ad agency.
Okay. And what was your favorite project that you managed there?
Well, and just to let you know, I also was a project manager at and I didn't, it was a small stint, it was a small internet company called STSN, and I was a project manager there. And so I've done a lot of project management, and I actually like project management. I think if you're detail-oriented and you are good at following through with tasks on your own, the project management is a really good field to go into. But my favorite project that I ever worked on is, at the time we had some smaller clients and we had some larger clients. And one of our clients was a Blue Man Group. I don't know if you remember that. But it was like, I think it was like a Hewlett Packard or something, and it was like these men that had blue on there. And so it was really fun to be working on a really big project that I saw nationally all the time. And so I really liked that project. But I think you can have a passion for any project you do. So like what I did at STSN is they installed internet access in hotels. And so it was before wireless internet access. And I loved it because what I really love most is working with people and solving problems. And in project management, that's what you do. And I think one of the things that I love about junior achievement the most is because we are a nonprofit, probably my bosses are all our board members, and we've got a board chair. And I feel like I get to deal with the best and the brightest people at their very best giving back. And I learn so much from them. And the one thing I would say is pick an area that you're passionate about in project management, because they say you're some of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you're very selective about those people who are your mentors and who you learn with, you'll get far and love what you do. Any other questions? That was a good question. So the other thing I guess I would leave you with is if you're undetermined about what you want to do with your life, that's okay. Let it evolve. Because like I said, I did work on a political campaign, didn't like it. I would be a horrible lawyer. And I'm really so glad that I've had all the life experiences I have to change my mind and to figure out what I love. And sometimes that takes a while. Yes.
What it was about the political campaign that you didn't like?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that. At the time, I knew I couldn't run for a political office because I was a woman. Or I thought I knew that. And so I thought the best I could do is work for a politician. And what I found about politics is that sometimes it's hard to stay true to your core values. It's a job where you have to please so many people that sometimes you're making decisions that aren't for the best interest of you or the people you serve. It's about, that next election or getting reelected. And that was a little bit distasteful for me. And I just remember thinking, and the same with law. I remember one of the things that really turned me off to law is that I was a single mom with 3 jobs making minimum wage. And my husband took me back to court because he wasn't paying me, which I was okay with, but he was suing me for not paying me so that that money could not accumulate that he owed me. And he had the best attorney in Utah, and I couldn't afford it, and I got slammed. And what I thought to myself is, how does his attorney sleep nights? They're really good attorneys, but there are certain things that are distasteful to me and my core integrity. And I thought being a politician or working for a politician that I couldn't believe in would be really hard. But what I will say is I've since worked with politicians. Every year we have an annual governor's breakfast, and I've learned that there are some pretty amazing people in politics. They still have to cater to the public. I'm not gonna lie. They still have their speeches written for them. They have to be really careful what they say. But I have a different opinion of politics than I did probably 10 to 15 years ago. Good questions, you guys.
Any last questions?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and here's what I'm going to say. I've been that person who has accepted that help, and I know how it feels, and I know what it feels like to do it for myself, and it feels so much better. And so thank you. I agree with you, and I think for me, again, everything that happened in my life, even though that seemed like a bad thing, that I was single and I didn't have money and I had kids, it turned out to be a good thing.
Yeah, everything has two sides.
Yeah.
That's what it helped you. Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Although it was hard, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.